Okay, now we are in R. We are ready to bring in edge list, check them into origin destination matrix. Okay, so this is you can re-download the edge list to matrix R script. This is a revised R script. Let's first make this package iGraph available. Library graph. Okay. Now let's bring in edge list. Let's first bring in edge list 1, 2. Okay. Okay, go grab edge list 1, 2. We save that as edge list 1, 2 new. Okay, bring in. Okay. And take a look. This edge list, the edge list. Okay. Looks fine to me. Let's run this few line here. This 2 line, this 2 line. Now let's take a look at the distance matrix. What it looks like. Okay. So now we realize that now the distance matrix have have 2 0 rows and many 0 columns. The reason we have this is that now we have a different number of demand origin points and destination points. We have 60 origin points and 23 destination points. And what these R scripts give you a square matrix, 60 rows and 60 columns. And that's why you have actual columns here. It has 62 rows and 62 columns. So we need to get rid of those actual rows and the actual column. Those are all zeros. Okay. So now let's run this line. This line is we're going to keep a row from 1 through 60. 1 through 60. Okay, because look at this, from 1 through 60, those are the 60 demand points. Okay. The other 2 rows, 102, 101, 102 are all zeros. Okay, we do not need them. Okay, now for columns, we need only 23 columns. Now we have 62 columns. 1 through 21 are those existing supply points, and the last 2 columns, 61, 62, are the new supply points, because we give the new supply points very large ID numbers. That's why the new supply points are all at the very end. So for the columns, we need a column from 1 through 21. Those are the existing supply points. Also, last 2 columns, 61, 62. Okay. So we're on the row from 1 through 60s, and the column 1 through 21, also 61, 62. So let's run this line. Okay. Now let's take a look at the matrix. Now looks right. Okay. Now we saved this distance matrix. We saved that as a distance matrix 1, 2. Okay. Let's save that as this underline mat 1, 2 dot CSV, and it's open. So do you want to create a new file? Yes. Okay. So now we have to run this one more time for edge list 1, 3. Go back to graph edge list 1, 3. Go 1, 3. We save that as edge list 1, 3 new. Okay, 1, 3 new. Okay. And take a look. There it is. Okay. Then we run these 4 lines. Again, this have actual 0 row, 0 column. We need to get rid of those 0 row, 0 column and run the same line here. Okay, now we save. Save that as a distance matrix 1, 3. Dist underline mat 1, 3 dot CSV, and open. And do you want to create the file? Yes. So we have created 2 origin, destination, distance matrices. Now let's go to R script to run the Huff model. Okay, so this is R script we use to run Huff model. You need to again download the revised Huff model R scripts to make sure that you got to download the new one. We already put up a revised R script. So we first run this line to make both RGDL and the raster packages available for this section of R. Now let's bring in shapefiles. We bring in a supply shapefile and a demand shapefile. Okay. So this is a supply point S, that's a supply. First, let's bring in a supply point 1, 2. Okay. Supply point 1, 2. 1, 2. Okay. Is there. Let's run second line. That's supply point demand. That's a demand point. That demand point. Let's go demand points. Get demand points. Okay. So now we bring in supply point 1, 2 and demand points. These next two lines are simply the alternative way to bring in a shapefile. Right now we use file choose function. And if you need to bring in a shapefile repeatedly, you better to run next two line and you specify the actual directed path, and so you can bring in the file very quickly. So we just use the file choose. It's just it's convenient. Okay. Now let's bring in distance matrix. Let's bring in distance matrix 1, 2. Okay. Go get it. Okay. Distance matrix 1, 2. Distance matrix 1, 2. Yeah, let's take a look. It's there. Okay. So now let's do one thing. We're going to save the shapefile attribute table as data frame, as a spreadsheet. So for both demand file and supply file, we run these two lines. One is for demand points, another is for supply 1, 2. Okay. So now let's take a look. Okay. Let's first take a look at this point D data. This is demand data. Take a look. There's something we need to do here. So, okay, let's go to a few columns here. First go to the population column, pop column. Let's click on the top. You see, now the R see this variable as character. We need to change that into numeric, to check numeric, and close down. I also check median income, med income. Again, it is a character. Let's check that into numeric. Check one more thing, check code. Code is also character. Let's make that into numeric. Okay, that make is very easy to sort. Okay, so now we close down. We close down the demand point file. Let's go to supply point file. Do things. Take a look at. So let's see ID. ID is numeric already. So that's good. Okay. So okay, everything else is good. Okay. So this step is important because we need to, if you want to calculate with variables in demand points, they need to be in a numerical format. Okay. So we correct them. That's good. Another thing we need to do is to check the order of a matrix, rows, and columns. We want them to be in the correct order from smaller, to large in ascending order. Okay, let's first check demand data. Run this line. We run this line, we find, okay, it's from 1 through, it seems to be correct order, from 1 through 60 in ascending order. Now let's check supply data point. I'll check this supply ID. That's incorrect. You see that's 11, start from 11, 12 through 19, then you start from 1 again. So in the incorrect order. So we need to sort the supply data. Let's just sort both of them. It's just convenient. Okay. Now let's check them again. After we sort both data set, we give them different name. We call points D data sort and points S data sort. Now let's check whether they are in the correct order. So this demand data is still in correct order. Let's check out the supply data. Now it is in correct order. So now we can run the Huff model. So here is a few lines of a script that we need to correct. We need to create variables. So let's within the demand data, let's first create the food supply, food demand variable. Run this line. Okay, we did this before. Okay, when we run the potential model, then we need to also create a supply food supply data in supply shapefile. In supply data file. Okay, let's run the 3 line. Okay. So now let's check. Okay, so let's check whether we have food demand data is there. Okay, you can see. Check food supply data is there. Okay, now we're ready to run the Huff model. Now first we have to set the parameter value. A is parameter for attraction. So attraction, now we see we use the capacity of supply as the measure of attraction. So we'll give it a exponent, a power value. Let's just use exponent just 1. And here the p value is distance decay value. Let's set distance decay parameter as 2. Okay, so now we set up these 2 values. Now let's create an empty matrix so that we can hold the value. Let's run this line so that we can create we can create empty matrix. Let's run the matrix to see what's inside. So it's just empty matrix and it's ready to hold the value. Then we run these for loops. Okay, run the loop. No problem. Run this line again. Then we have another loop to run, another for loop to run this. Okay, so now it's finished. Okay, let's run this line to see what's inside. Okay, whether there's any value. Yeah, there's a lot of values in there. So we need to create necessary value so that we can have data to use. Okay, run these 2 lines. Okay. Okay. Run these 2 more lines, put them in the correct shape, in the correct order, also give it some ID. So now it's ready. Well, eventually we create this file. It's called supply market share value from shapefile demand points and supply points 1, 2. So this supply market share value obviously is for supply point 1, 2. So let's save this supply market share value. Okay, we save that as supply market share value 1, 2 CSV. Don't forget that. Okay, supply market share values 1, 2. This for new point 1, 2 CSV and open and save that. Then let's go back to get the supply point 1, 3. We have to run this one more time. Okay, now let's bring in supply point 1, 3. Okay, let's go to run the first line. That first line is for supply point. Okay, go to get supply point 1, 3. Supply point 1, 3. Open. Okay, so now we also need to bring in distance matrix 1, 3. We change its name to 1, 3. Okay, 1, 3. Okay, bring in distance matrix 1, 3. Okay, distance matrix 1, 3. Okay, take a look. to make sure that we do have something. So it's right there. Okay. Now let's again we save this new supply point 13 shapefile attribute table into the spreadsheet in the data frame. So this we run this second line. Second line is point S data. This supply point data. Okay. Now let's take a look at the supply point data we just saved. So make sure that ID is the numeric. So it's numeric. Okay. That's good. Okay. Now let's again we take a look at the order of the ID. So we have to make sure that they are in ascending order. So this is the supply point 13 obviously is incorrect order. We need to sort. So we sort this points as data which come from supply point 13. So we sort point as data, okay, by ID. So now we have point as data sort. Let's check its ID order again. Now it's in correct order. Okay. So now we can again create supply variables. Now we need to only run the second block, because in the last time we already created the demand data. So we need only in demand point 13 data set we create new supply variables. Run these 3 lines at the block. Now let's see whether we have any variable from this. Okay, we have value. Now let's go to run Huff model. We use again A is 1, P is 2. Again, we first create a empty matrix, run this for loop block, and everything that we have done before, again run this for loop block. Okay. Now let's create some variables so that we can make maps. Okay. And one last block to run. So now we create another supply market share value, but this is from supply point 13. So we save that as supply market share value 13. Okay. Supply market share value 13 dot CSV. Okay. Supply market share point value 13 dot CSV and open. Okay. And we're done here. So we're done with R. Next step is we'll go back to QGIS to bring the shapefile, to bring this CSV file into QGIS to join those data table with shapefile so that we can make maps. Okay. So now let's stop here and we go to QGIS again. See you soon.